This is Prios and I'm a professional gambler, and today we will look into the 3 biggest mistakes in poker, at least 2. This is due to Fedor Holz, and yeah, he made a video about that, and I'm very excited to see that, and I hope that we all can learn something. This is probably more turning related, but probably also transferable to cash games. And yeah, I will also add my commentary to this, so let's go. And definitely thanks to Pokercode with Fedor Holz that we can watch this great content. So let's go.
What's up, guys? This is Fedor, and today I have a really special one for you because I want to share with you what I believe the 3 biggest mistakes our poker players make. Number 1, they don't show up prepared. The game starts before the game starts. You have to get prepared before the game. And there's so many aspects before playing poker. One aspect is bankroll management. Bankroll management is such an important aspect.
That's quite basic. But yeah, if you don't have a good bankroll management, you will fail. You can even be the best player if you risk too much of your roll. At some point, the variance will hit you hard and you will lose all of it or most of it, and then it will be very hard and time consuming to rebuild. So yeah, proper bankroll management is a very important skill, and not many people pay enough attention to that. And I also think many people are way too conservative, so that's also a mistake. You don't move up in stakes when you have a proper bankroll and the skills to do so.
Aspect of that. You need to think about how much money you want to risk, how much bankroll you have, how much money you have in income as well, and then choose your buy-ins accordingly. Don't play over your limits. Another thing is selection. The tournaments you select or the cash games you select, it is so important for amateurs, for hobby players, for professionals, whatever level you play at is, select the games you play in well.
I mean, I think that's probably not that important for recreationals. They just want to have fun. They don't do it from the money aspect of things. But yeah, if you want to make money playing poker, you definitely have to game select very well and table select very well and also seat select very well. That's also not often mentioned. So you want to have position on the weakest spot on the table for sure.
It's local live casinos around the rig or the players you play with. Maximize your fun, maximize your or minimize your loss, and maximize your win. Like, this is really important. There are so many games out there you can play, so many stakes.
But this does not have to do that much with preparation, because yeah, that's not about preparation. Preparation would be when you analyze players before you play against them or something, or go through old data, but this is not preparation in my mind.
You can play different casinos, online, live, so many tournaments there are, so many festivals. Selecting the tournaments you play is another really important part of the preparation.
Although yeah, actually selecting the tournaments you need is some sort of preparation.
Another aspect of prep is the mindset. I've seen so many people show up with too little sleep, unprepared mentally for the game they're playing, not ready to go for a 12-hour session. They didn't even think about how many days the tournament might take. They have made other plans, or they do something in the evening or go partying. So
the bell ring have to go away for very short. We'll be back in a second. Where is my... Sorry for the interruption. Oh, that's the right one. Yeah, let's get back into it. Yeah, wrong mindset. Always bad.
So if you play a tournament or if you play a poker tournament, you sign up for something longer. So make sure you're prepared for the grind. So to sum up, the first really big mistake players across all different stakes make is they don't show up prepared.
That's why I don't play tournaments. He said that you have to be prepared to play 3 days in a row or something, and I hate tournaments because I cannot quit when I wanted to. I also have to show up on the next day if it's a multi-day tournament, so that's why I only play cash when I can always leave when I wanted to and when I'm not fresh anymore.
So make sure you're the one showing up prepared. Know which tournaments or cash games you want to play, choose the right buy-in size, and be mentally prepared for the game ahead of you. With this, you have the first step done already.
Yeah, good advice, but yeah, very basic.
Really important if you want to get into the competition. Now to the second mistake that a lot of beginners make when they start playing poker and still do for a very long time is they play too loose passive. Loose passive is generally the play style of most players who begin. They call too much, they don't raise
Yeah, loose passive is the worst style you can play.
enough, they don't bet aggressive enough, and they're just very easy to play against because you basically just extract value over and over again. Make sure you're not the sucker in the game. Don't play loose passive. Don't call too many hands. Don't limp in speculative hands. Play a more tight aggressive style. So let me expand a little bit more on some examples of where that might happen. So first, it's really important to understand position. One of the biggest mistakes, especially beginners make, is that they limp in from early position and don't understand that every position is very different, because in the first position you have 6, 7, 8 players behind you, and in later positions it's only 1 or 2 players that you have behind you. And that is so fundamentally important, because think about all the good hands that could still be in the mix. If there's 7...
Yeah, the closer you get to the button, the looser you can be. And yeah, from UTG you have to be very tight, because many people are left behind and can still act behind you. And if it's on the biggest table possible, 9 people behind you, and if you limp in trash or raise trash, you will be in a world of pain.
Players behind you that could have aces or kings or queens or ace-king, then you want to play more cautiously and want to play more tight, so less hands. When there's only 1 or 2 players behind you, they have relatively many more speculative hands, so you can play a more aggressive style and play a wider range. To think that more flexibly and be like, okay, now I'm early position and there's a lot of players behind me, I need to play pretty tight. And then later position you can play wider ranges. So to put that in perspective, maybe from early position...
Yeah, so in essence, play tight, aggressive style, and be positional aware. Yeah, also basic advice, but good one.
You only want to play 18-20% of your hands, but then from the button you want to play 50% of your hands. Yeah, so the
18% from UTG sounds a bit much, honestly. At least for PLO. Though, yeah, it's about right. I think in tourneys with 10-handed games or 900 games, you definitely have to be tighter than that.
Gap is really big. A lot of the beginners I see making the mistake is that they kind of play the same hands. As they have an ace, they're like, okay, let me limp this hand because it looks like a decent hand, and they don't...
He's always talking about limping. I think in tourneys there are some situations where you can limp, but in cash game general, you don't want to limp at all.
Think about the relation to the other players. So it's very important to take more of these information into account. So players behind you and their relative hand strength, or the hands they can have, is really important. And that ties in with this idea of a loose passive playstyle and why it's not that great to play loose passive. Another reason is there are a lot of situations where you want to take the lead. And if you're too passive, you miss out on a lot of value with your strong hands. So when you're a passive player, it's really easy to identify when playing against you. It's like, if you bet, you know, okay, the guy has a really strong hand. And he's probably also not bluffing because he's too passive. So don't be that passive guy where everyone else always knows is when you're betting, you have a strong hand.
Yeah, you have to be balanced. You cannot bet when you have strong hands and don't bet anywhere else. So you have to be balanced. You have to bluff sometimes. Yeah, and yeah, as already said, loose passive is a very bad playing style. I don't know why he is staying at this style all the time. I guess to make a point.
And that's why aggression is so important. You need to have bluffs that you want to be bluffing.
Yeah, aggression also is very important, because you cannot only win the pot at showdown, but also when people fold. And that's why aggression is so important, because you can make people fold better hands or hands with a lot of potential. And if you are passive, you give them the chance to catch up. And yeah, Yeah, and they might have folded otherwise, but if you let them draw to their 4 outs, for example, then they might suck out, and on the river, you are the one losing the pot, which you would have won otherwise. And if they want to chase that draw, they can, but they should pay a price that's too high. Then you also make money in the long term. So yeah, aggression is very key in poker. But you can only be aggressive when you have good starting hands. So tight aggressive, easy game.
And you also don't only want to bet with your really strong hands, but sometimes you want to have some more marginal hands. This level of aggression is...
I think often people use a polarized approach. So you bet your very strong hands and you bet your very weak hands. But the in-between stuff, you play relative passive with check calling and stuff that you cannot be exploited. I mean, you cannot bet all your strong hands and all your bad hands. There has to be a mix and some balance in there as well. But that's not that's a general a good approach or a decent approach in many spots.
Much better than playing this passive style where people know, oh, if you bet, you have a strong hand, and if you check, you have a weaker hand. So it makes it really, really easy to play against you. So a loose passive player is the dream for a professional like me, because it's very straightforward, very easy to exploit, very easy to play against. So that's why I'm saying the second biggest mistake is to play a too loose passive style, and you need to get rid of that if you want to get to the next level. What I suggest you is try to play more aggressive, try to play tight. We call the style tight aggressive or tag, and that is, I'm promising you, going to be a big improvement to your game. So think about times where you can put in more bets with bluffs and also thin value bets, we call it. So good hands that are good but not really, really strong. And try to not play too speculative hands pre-flop specifically, because that will make a big impact. If you fold the speculative hands from early position and don't limp, that's really important, don't limp, then you will make your life much, much easier. Let's tackle...
Yeah, there's also, if you limp, you usually tell your opponent already that you are having a weekend, and the ultimate goal of the game is to steal the blinds. And if you limp, you cannot steal the blinds. At least the big blind will see the flop for free, and you don't want to allow people to see the flop for free. You want to have the ability to win pre-flop, and if you down, people should pay for the luxury to see a flop. So yeah, always come in with a raise.
The third really big mistake a lot of players make, and this is across all skill levels from beginners to absolute professionals, and also a lot of players I study with and myself. This is regarding every poker player, but I still want to mention this because I actually think it's one of the biggest reasons that holds people back in their development, is poker players overestimate their abilities. Period. Everyone does it. It's just a matter of the degree. What can we do about this?
Yeah, I think that's true. People are overconfident, and yeah, it's true. And ego is a big factor, and you should take this out of the equation as good as you can. And yeah, so many people lost all their money because of ego or did very silly things. I remember one guy, he was probably in the top 10 of fixed limit hold'em players, but there was one end boss, and he was waiting on the biggest stakes. And for some reason, he decided to play him heads up, and he didn't stop. He played him for like 1.5 days straight and lost almost all his money. I mean, he was able to rebuild later, but why the fuck should you do something like that? And yeah, that was probably also ego related, because he was not telling himself, okay, this guy is way better than I. And this was also bad mindset and bad bankroll management. But this was basically an example of all the mistakes you could make. Not all, but many.
The guy who always asks the question, even if you think you're right or you're a really good pro, never talk down to someone. Don't think you're something better. Don't think you have the solution, because nobody has the solution.
The solver has the solution, and they are usually quite accurate if you play against other good players. So I disagree with that one.
Of things that we believed in 2014 and 15 is just plain wrong right now. We know a much better approach to it, and this will happen with years and years, it will happen again and again and again. So don't overestimate your abilities. If you can hone the skill to be realistic and to really try to challenge yourself and to always ask a question in a positive, framed way, then that will help your growth, both on a personal and on a professional level, a lot. I promise you, this has been the key driver in my growth as a poker player and my professional career is I really always try to ask these questions.
I think one of the key things you should do, that he did not mention yet, not sure if he will mention it later, you have to put in a lot of work off the tables and study all this shit. Get deep into the solver, learn how to play pre-flop, learn how to play post-flop, analyze situations. Know about the probabilities. All this is very important. And yeah, he didn't mention it yet, but if you want to be successful in poker, this is even more important than all the other things he mentioned before.
What am I doing well? Where can I improve? What are the blind spots I might have? So especially if I play a spot and I consider it standard and it will never change, is why do I think that? Is there some angle I can take where this might change, right? And everything you believe about poker right now, to have an approach or some way of thinking about it where that is subject to change, right? People went from raising really large to min-raising pre-flop, and now they raise larger again. So you can see there's always a development of people do something, then there's an exploit against what people do, and then they think that is the ultimate thing, and then there is another exploit to what people are doing now, and then they think that's the best. So it's always this iteration. So be ahead of the curve and anticipate already that whatever you know about poker right now.
I was also one of the first guys raising pot always in Pot Limit Omaha. And this now is the standard. And yeah, many people were min raising, but this made no sense to me ever. And yeah, even ahead of the solvers, although this is not entirely my thing, because I actually have to give credit to someone else who did a huge data analysis and found out that you will make the most money raising. And this was even before solvers. He just put many winning players into one group and did analysis with Hold'em Manager and found out that it's better to raise big. And yeah. So, this guy gave this information to me, so I was one of the first guys knowing about that. And now with solvers, we know that it is correct, at least on non-ante tables, to raise for the pot always.
Now, it will change. There will be new answers. There will be better answers. There will be better players. I went through this. I was probably one of the best.
I think this is true. There was a huge evolution, and the poker theory improved a lot, but I think there's not that much happening in the future anymore, because with the solvers and the brute forcing the things, it is hard to get. I mean, they will get a bit better with better computational power, and then you can put in even bigger game trees, but I think there's not that much room to improve anymore. So I think the thing that we learned now will not change that much in the future. So I have to disagree with him here, but he is correct if you look 10 years back when we made so many mistakes based on what we know today.
Players in the world in 2015, and they're better players now. There are quite some better players because they have studied and worked and have new ideas and had 6 years of time to improve and work with solvers and challenged each other, and that's how you progress and that's how you iterate. So if there's one thing that I can give you on your way, and the biggest mistake I see players make across all stakes is don't overestimate yourself. And in the more positively framed way, always ask these challenging questions. Always look for that room where you can improve, where you can get better, and never look down at someone. Always see it as a challenge, as an interesting input, as a new viewpoint. It will make personal relationship much nicer also with other players, even if you consider them weaker. There's always something.
I also think he forgot the mental aspect of the game. should not be tilting ever, basically. And you should also not, you should play a game always or close to it. And if you are not able to do that, this will also leave a lot of money on the table. And yeah, so quit when you are not playing a game anymore. I mean, in tourneys you can't, but in cash game you can. And yeah, make breaks when you're on a big downswing and can't focus. Stuff like that. Don't tilt all your money away. Don't forget about bankroll management when you're on a downswing and trying to chase. Stuff like that is really, really important and wasn't mentioned by him. That's also one of the biggest mistakes people make.
You can learn. I learned a lot from my students. I learned a lot from the people that I coach that play lower limits. It helped me articulate my thoughts, and it gave me...
I think coaching is very beneficial, not only to the guys who learn from you, but also for the coach, because then you will think even more deeply about concepts, maybe even recognize some mistakes you make. And yeah, if you explain stuff to other guys, and if you have to put it in very easy words, this will also help your own understanding a lot. So teaching people is very good to get better yourself and improve. This is completely right.
Input of how they think and how I play against them. So that type of challenge of any viewpoint, and even my own ones where I think I do something well, to question that and improve that and then become better, that was one of the things that made me a really, really good player. And if I can give you something on your way, if you want to improve at poker, if you want to get to the next level, then ask these questions. So these are my 3 mistakes. Let's sum them up. First, be prepared. Show up for the game before the game starts. Second, don't play, lose passive.
I agree with the first part. I basically, I mean, be prepared could also mean that you should study a lot offline off the tables. If this is meant with it, then totally agreed. And yeah, you should play tech, and all other styles suck. I mean, loose aggressive also might work depending on the table. And if you play against recreationals, this might even be the best style. But yeah, usually tech is best. So that's true as well.
Play a tight aggressive style and don't limp around. It's just not gonna do you any good. Third, don't overestimate yourself. Stay sharp, ask these questions, keep an open mind, question everything that's out.
Yeah, keep ego out of the game. And yeah, also very important, mind game. And yeah, be prepared. I mean, for him, be prepared is also table and game selection. But yeah, this could be an own point. So this could be 4 and 5.
There, and you'll be a much better poker player. I'm Fedor. I hope this helped you. And if you like this type of content, leave us a subscribe. It really shows us that you...
Okay, this seems to be the end. Yeah, like, subscribe, share if you like this content. Yeah, also consider following me on social media or on Twitch if you want to see me live. Yeah. Thank you again for watching. Bye bye until next time.